What's up, y'all? This is Rom coming back at you with yet another smartphone couch video. The players in the real world don't look like what the media promotes. And in media, I mean both mainstream media and social media. And one of the things is I think a lot of guys will go by men. Women know better. And in fact, I'll say something about the women in a second, but a lot of guys think, to get a lot of women, you gotta damn near be perfect in everything. You gotta have that perfect height. Shoot, you gotta have that perfect jawline, perfect haircut, perfect body build. Shoot. Even when I talk about body game, some guys think, oh yeah, you got to be that certain percentage of body fat. They even promote it. But, it's a funny thing because there's a big difference between theory and what's actually out there. What's actually happening in the streets, which is why I always say go out. I mean, I've talked about this before. I'm going to keep talking about it because I get guys, they'll hit me up privately or something. Well, I ain't getting any women because this is how I look, or, my nose too big, or, I got this extra weight on me and all of that. And I'm like, but if you do some actual field research, and for the academics out there, especially sociologists, qualitative research, which is basically field research, actually go out and see what's happening, A lot of longtime people who are familiar with me, particularly in the black manosphere, have referred to me as the field master. Because I actually go out, and I tell other people to go out. Because a lot of people caught up what's online and everything, but what's in the real world ain't the same. If you take an honest look at guys out in the street, and especially if you talk to enough women who they getting dogged out by, they'll say they getting dogged out by, they chasing, they know to be players. And then the guys, you are able to observe them around women and see how they interact. Not what they say in a comment or even in a video, but what you actually see them interact. You seeing the women check them out. It really goes against what's generally promoted. Because even when you look at something like IG, the few times a woman might show their man, you don't look like the type of man you think they should be with. And of course, a lot of guys say, well, it's money and stuff, but only a small percentage of men actually make over 6 figures. And in this society, you got to have a minimum if you're making a minimum 100,000, you middle class now. And even then, in some areas, you're still not quite middle class. Oh man, I think this financial analyst told me like middle class in the DC area is like 173,000. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. It's pretty high. Like just mere 6 figures still ain't high enough in some areas. Shoot, mere 6 figures in some areas, shoot. Okay, you could afford a roommate. Just like, but my point is, when you out in the world though, and you see who's actually getting the women, it goes against what's, media, mainstream media, social media promotes. Like mainstream media, there's yet another dating show on Netflix, And you notice whenever they have these dating shows, the men are basically fashion models. Men and women, they basically models, they got some social media presence, some. That's how they were discovered to begin with, and a lot of them get on there to go further. Of course, they're going to be in that 1% of 1% who's going to be as close to physically perfect. They're at their optimal. And more so the men than the women, more so the men, because so far we haven't heard anything about any of those men on those shows getting chest implants. But you do have some men getting chest implants. I was familiar with a man in the real world because a friend of mine was dealing with him, and she said that dude's, he had the tight pipe, but she said, yeah, most of it's medical. Most of it is medical. She said that, and she had reason to know. So, even got penis surgery. So, But if you look at it more naturally, men tend to be there. But that's only 1% of 1%. If you're talking in the real world, everyday world, where people are actually doing stuff, especially the men who are actually getting the women, like multiple women. Like I said before, any man can get a woman. He just might not like what she look like. But you talking about the men getting multiple women, you know, they might look, you know, they might be generically handsome, or shout out Nicole Michelle, handsome cute, which means any man can be that. Handsome, like for a man to really be handsome in this society, even if it's really it's actually the average, really. It's actually the average, because all you need to do is just fix yourself up. A woman gonna call you handsome. Seriously, that's it. Brush your teeth, straighten your teeth, make sure everything's lined up good, you handsome. Seriously, any man can fix himself up for that. So the men who getting the most women are usually that. And in fact, when I say average, that's really average. That's really average. So but they ain't gonna get a modeling contract or anything like that. They ain't gonna have the woman like, oh my God, or anything. She gonna be like, he handsome. But those would be the ones. Even with body game, what do I say with body game? Just get your best body build. It's only a tiny percentage of men will have like that fitness model build. Seriously. If you take an honest look at the men who are getting the women like crazy, they are more in that roughneck range. Shout out Cousin T-Tall. They got more of that construction worker type of build, or that blue collar, you know, they work with their hands type of build, or, you know, firemen or something. That's the majority. Of course, there's going to be some men who might just be physically perfect like that, or close to it, and then even some slimmer men. But if you look at the overall majority, they just there, you know. They could have a little bit of gut on them and stuff. In fact, I did a video before in a video series on Rom TV talking about what I call Goodbar clans. And those guys with Cousin T-Talk would call roughnecks. I called them bangers. And I've had quite a few women say, oh yeah, because those are the type of guys, they look ordinary, you know, salt of the earth type, be getting the women like crazy. And somebody will say, well, no, women don't want that. But here's the problem with it all. A lot of times men need to talk to women or really interact with them or really just fucking pay attention. Because, and in fact, Miss Mocha Angel, I mean, she's busy. She's a professor, so she got to mold some young minds right now. But she might do a video where we talk about this very thing. And I've talked to a lot of women about it. First of all, like, I'll put it like this. That face rating, men rating each other on face ratings is a waste of energy. It's a waste of energy. If you're a man, never go to another man for that. Because the way a woman, and there's even been articles about this, what a man will look at as ideal in another man, even if they're heterosexual, women look at something totally different. Seriously. There's been numerous men through the years that I've known personally and then heard women talk about that other men would say, well, him, or he ugly, he all this. Yet the one, you ask the woman, he gorgeous. I lost count of how many women they'll point to some guy they interested in, show the picture. It's like, hey, he gorgeous. You know, I'm like, in fact, that's why, I've had some guys hit me up and ask how they look and all, be wanting to do video calls. I'm like, I can't look at you and tell anything. Go find a woman you trust. Because women just in general, that's one thing men have to understand. Women, they looking at a man totally different. First of all, yes, they looking using their eyes, but they don't stop there. First of all, and I've said this before, when a man, like the whole face thing, when a woman looking at a man's face, she ain't just looking at the pure bone structure. She trying to get an idea about his personality. So when she judging it, she ain't just saying, oh, he got that great jawline. She trying to say, okay, what's his grooming like? What's his personality like? What kind of vibe she get off of him? Because when a woman looking at a man, part of the thing that's judging whether or not he's attractive to her is her vagina. That's why I say a man rating another man is a waste of energy. Men don't have vaginas. Seriously. A man does not have a vagina. So if a woman is looking at a man partly with her vagina, that's what she's thinking about. And, you know, it comes down to a primal level. That's why I say if you take an honest look at the men who are really getting the most play, they're more in that roughneck range. Because they still physically strong, which turns women on. They want a man who can protect them, can go hunting on a primal level, but also look like they can make a healthy baby on a primal level. Even if they've already had their children, that still affects them. You know? They're looking at the whole package. So really, even with the body game, as long as you're in decent physical shape, decent, you don't have to be perfect, but decent, and just overall just look healthy. That's it. And women, that's what women think about. And the vibe, you know, and part of healthiness is, yeah, it like on a primal level, yeah, they're looking at who would make a healthy baby, but then they're looking at who would take care of the baby. Like one thing that I noticed this with myself. I actually get a lot more attention from women. Like they get extra friendly when I'm around my sons. I mentioned before, there's a local restaurant where if I go in and a certain manager is there, the food is free. I've even had the server say, you know, it's so great, you know, see you with your sons all the time and everything. What's the key to that? What is the key to that? The key is just being a father figure. That's why I even saw something one time where somebody was giving some game. It's like one of those bigger channels and more professional and all of that. You know, got the voiceover and say women go crazy over men with how they interact with babies or dogs, because it shows a paternal thing, you know, paternal protective thing. Women looking at a man like that. And if you take an honest look at the men who if you take an honest look or talk to the women about the guys that are going crazy over, it's going to be along those lines. And then in general, and then even on a private thing, like I know a dude, he gets the attention of plenty of women, but he's more on that spiritual tip. He gives that whole spiritual vibe and everything, how he dressed, what he wears around his neck and everything. And, you know, women, he was at a retreat. He was at a retreat where women had to go to each man and find something good about him. And he said the thing he got the most was his spiritual nature. So they looking at that too, especially if the women see, that's the thing. When women looking at a man, they looking at the entire package. And that's why when you get that player, if you look at any player, and this is one thing I found talking with any of them, they ain't one-dimensional. They ain't one-dimensional. Like, you could see that. You could just see that. A lot of them are just cool people. You look at them, like I knew this one player. And this dude was a little bit, he wasn't no fashion model looking dude. In fact, facially, he had that more of an oval face. So he ain't had that like crazy strong jawline, but women went crazy over his ass. Like I literally saw women about to fight over him. And you know, and he was more that big linebacker football. In fact, he had played football. And it wasn't like super cut or anything, but it was like, okay, what is it about him? You talk with him, he was a cool ass motherfucker. He was actually cool, calm. He could hit women on a deeper level. He was romantic. He said, yeah, he even said it. He said when he had sex with me, he'd hold him afterwards and stuff. So he gave that one thing. He gave that one vibe off to women. You know, plus he dressed up and everything. He's always stylish. But then there was something else about him. I saw him nearly rip a man's head off for saying something wrong to one of his lady friends. He was about to fuck him up. So he gave off that real protective, vicious vibe. You know? And see, my whole point is, you know, if you look at what I teach in my books, Nice Guys and Players, Sexual Chemistry, talk about inner players' eyes, even meeting attractive women. In my relationship books for men, it's always about developing yourself to the greatest degree. Like, let's use that whole thing with the face thing. A lot of guys think they're ugly. And, you know, okay. So what else can you develop? You can still work on your body. You can still dress well. You can still develop your personality. You can still develop your intelligence. Because contrary to popular belief, women, they get turned on by intelligence, but not the academic type. They can get turned on by somebody who just can talk and make some sense. So you got to look at all of that. So when a woman comes across that guy, oh, another thing too, one of the things with the men who are successful is how they deal with women, period. They just give the impression they just simply like women. And that turns on women a lot. That turns on women a lot. You just giving that vibe, like, because I even said that to, I never forget, I said that to a dude. He kept calling women bitch, 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 bitch in private, but publicly be friendly, but then wondered why he wasn't getting them. And I told him, I said, when a woman deals with you, you might not say that publicly. You might call her that. You might not call her that to her face, but it's going to reflect in how you look at her. Because women, they checking out faces, but remember what I say, they ain't just looking at the bone structure. They're not just looking at the bone structure. They looking at your facial expressions or what vibe you giving off. And if you don't like someone, if you ever around somebody you don't like, you gonna pick up on it. Like at one of my local grocery stores, and there's a person. In the back of my mind, I think I'm gonna have to go to his jaw at some point. I really do. Because the dude, when I see him, he just give me that vibe. Like he just got some hatred in his heart and he don't know me. Probably a little racist ass motherfucker. And the vibe he gives every single, but you know, if I have to interact with him, extremely polite and stuff, but the vibe he gives. The vibe he gives. Like anybody who grew up in the streets, spent any time in the streets, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody just giving you that vibe, like they'll go to you. You know? Women feel that even stronger. Like a woman, she look at somebody, she feel that vibe. Like I say, this particular one, the person, just the way he'll look, his vibe, energy, he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to go to this motherfucker's jaw. Don't think, oh, Robbie 57, dude. I can still throw up over 200, 300 if I want to. If I work, I can get back to 300 in a month if I wanted to. So. And nobody ever seen me throwing hands, so I'm just saying. But just to the main point, though, women pick up on that even stronger. So they looking at it differently. But bringing this back around to the players, it's always multiple things, and that's one thing I continuously preach. When we talk about a thorough man, see, those are players I grew up around when I was younger. They were always that type who, they were actually good in school. They were always decent students. They could always play some type of sport. They were real cool, go to the parties, dance, could throw hands, could talk to the ladies. Just doing that multiple thing. And that's ultimately where you're trying to go. And anybody can build it. Don't get caught up in your bone structure, your height. Just improve everything else that you can control. So. Anyway, that's all I got. And I'm going to hammer that because, you know, a lot of times it's not talked about. Like, a lot of people get caught up in what I'm saying. Or they get caught up if I talk about some other dynamic. But shit, if you really look at it, even when I talk body game, what I say, that's the foundation. That's the foundation because if a man wants to be a man, he got to physically be able to do shit. He got to physically be able to get out here. So that's why it's the foundation, but it's not the only thing. You still want to develop your other stuff. You know, that's why I have a separate money channel for a man to get money. You know, my deep thought channel is just for a man to open his mind and actually think about some things. You know, you got to have it. And I've said several times, you still got to talk to a woman no matter what. There ain't no magic to it, just talk. So, anyway. That's all I got for today, y'all. Yeah, this one of those weeks. You ain't gonna probably get a car video this week. Let's put it like this. I got a big project that's gonna drop on the 13th. it's going to be made, because people have been asking for it for a long time. One of the few times I do something that people are asking for it constantly, and for years. I ain't going to say what it is. Y'all see on the 13th. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.